everybody, I'm Taylor from Tailored Expressions. Coloring for adults is a growing trend, but as card makers, I'd like to say we've known the stress-relieving benefits of coloring for a long time. In fact, I've experienced the therapeutic benefits of coloring since I could hold a crayon. Now, through the years, obviously my coloring medium of choice has changed, and most recently I've enjoyed re-engaging with watercoloring. Watercoloring is such a forgiving way to color an image, as it's not about staying perfectly within the lines or achieving just the right blend on your colors. With perfection taken out of the equation, my enjoyment of watercoloring has really increased. Now, as with any coloring medium, we have many different product choices. And today, I'd like to focus on using our Tailored Expressions watercolor panels with Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. Now, each package of our watercolor panels includes 12 unique illustrations pre-printed on really high-quality watercolor paper. The 3x4 size makes them versatile for use not only on handmade cards, but also on gift tags, pocket scrapbooks, planner inserts, and more. So let me show you a few of the designs in our Keep in Touch collection. You can see the collection here. They have several different sentiments. We have hello, sweet. Then we have some that are just blank. You could include your own doodled sentiment or a stamped sentiment inside that. So lots of different options for your coloring pleasure on these watercolor panels. So now let's get started. I want to show you some tips and tricks on how I watercolored this card. The first thing you'll need for watercoloring is a water brush, and I would recommend something like this. There are lots of different brands out there. My personal favorite, what I have here, is the Kuraki water brush. You can see it has a really nice fine tip. It comes in different widths of tip, so pay attention to that when you're purchasing one. If you're looking to color images that have a fine line on them, you're going to want something with a more fine tip. And then the other thing you're going to need is a coloring medium. Now, there are lots of different markers out there that will work for this, like the Tim Holtz Distress markers. Really any water-based marker will work. One of my personal favorites are the Zig Real Brush Clean Color markers, which you can see here. And one of the reasons why I really like these for using with our watercolor cards are because of that fine tip that I just mentioned. So you can see a lot of our imagery is kind of detailed, and so you want to be able to have that small fine tip to get in those spaces. So now I'm going to show you how I go about watercoloring. I'm just going to take one of the markers. There are a few different ways you can do that, but typically I like to start by just coloring the marker onto an acrylic block. You could also use a piece of transparency or something that is easily wipeable with just a water and a paper towel. Now, I do have a paper towel up here at the top of my table, and that's just to blot if you get some extra water, or perhaps maybe you have a brush that lets out quite a bit of water. You don't want to have a ton of water on your brush, and you also don't want to give a lot of pressure. You don't want anything dripping out of your water brush while you're using it. So I just use this paper towel kind of to blot my watercolor brush as I go. So what I'm going to do is just grab some of that color that I colored on there, and I'm going to start by brushing that onto my watercolor panel. And you can continue as long as you have some color on your brush. Then you can always come back and grab more color and just fill in those areas. Now, as your water brush starts to become more saturated with water, that's when you want to come up and just give it a nice blot. Also, anytime you're changing colors, I typically will just squeeze out a little bit of water and then blot out that color before I start on the next one. So this is just a really kind of rough watercolor here, and then I'm going to just start on another color and do the green here for you. Now, as you lay the first layer of color down, one tip I would give is to grab your embossing gun and just run it over your image to allow the water to soak up into the paper, and then you can go back and continue to add more color. If you try to add additional color on top of already wet color, it often bleeds a little bit more than I personally enjoy. So I like to dry in between the layers of color that I add. So after I'm finished with this lighter green, I might take my embossing gun and rub over that and then come back with the darker green after it's dry. And you'll be able to tell a little bit more of that contrast. So one other option you can do instead of using the water brush, if you're looking for a little more concentrated color, you can also take the markers and you can just color directly onto the paper like you see here, which is one of the reasons why I love that these markers are very fine tipped. So then after you've colored directly on the paper, you can come back with your clean water brush and just blend that color into the lines of your image. And as I talked about in the beginning of the video, you can see that watercoloring is really forgiving. I mean, there's no perfection about my image. It's just about putting the color down, getting that nice blend with the water, and you'll have a beautifully colored image in no time. So I am just going to go ahead and color the rest of this image for you, and you guys can take a little watch. So there you have it. Wasn't that super easy? Adding a watercolor panel to a card base creates a beautiful card that will brighten anyone's day. So I invite you to try your hand at watercoloring your own panels. To find the products I used on this project, visit the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you back here soon. Happy stamping!